Before we learn about the various life processes, we should know the defining characteristics of life. How do we understand what is alive and what is not? We see a variety of things such as mountains, land, buildings, plants, insects, birds, animals, etc. around us. How do we differentiate these things? Some of these, like mountains, land, buildings, are non-living things, while others, like plants, insects, birds, and animals, are living. What are the basic differences between these? All living things carry out various life processes like taking in food, obtaining energy from food, removal of wastes, and so on. Living things also move, grow, respond to changes in their external and internal conditions, and produce young ones. You have learned that living organisms have tissues, which comprise groups of cells with similar structures and functions. A cell is the basic structural and functional unit of any living thing. Each cell is made up of molecules. The molecules exhibit movement during cellular reactions. Such reactions lead to the cellular life activities. There is an absence of such molecular movements in virus, which remain non-living until they infect a living organism. Their molecular movement begins when they use the other organism's cell molecules and organelles for producing their own proteins and replicating themselves. Let us now discuss how living beings grow and how they maintain and repair their structures. The growth of a living organism starts with the division of its cells. When a cell divides, it forms two daughter cells from a single mother cell. The daughter cells divide and redivide to give rise to tissues and organs. Different life processes of an organism, like growth and maintenance, require energy which is obtained from food by a process called nutrition. Different organisms have varied nutritional processes depending on their environment and specific food requirements. Food is broken down into simpler forms by a stepwise oxidizing reducing process known as respiration. Generally, in multicellular organisms, all the cells are not in contact with the environment. The exchange of gases and the uptake of food occur in specialized tissues. So, food and oxygen have to be transported to all parts of the body. For the movement of food and oxygen from one part to another, there is a transportation system. The different life processes produces harmful waste products that have to be removed from the bodies of living beings. The process of elimination of these waste products of metabolic activity from the body is excretion. In complex organisms, a specialized system carries out excretion and a specialized transportation system carries the metabolic waste products. The exchange of materials with the environment is accomplished by diffusion in unicellular organisms, as the entire surface of the organism remains in contact with the environment. That is, in the case of a single celled organism, no specific organs for taking in food, exchange of gases, or removal of wastes may be needed because the entire surface of the organism is in contact with the environment. Living things also respond to changes in their environment in a particular manner. They produce new individuals similar to themselves by a process called reproduction. They have a definite life cycle of birth, growth, reproduction, and death. From the above discussion, it is clear that living things can be easily distinguished from non living things as they carry out various life processes such as nutrition, respiration, transportation, excretion, etc. Let us consider these various processes so essential to maintain life one by one. Okay? How do living things get their food? The general requirement for energy and materials is common in all organisms, but it is fulfilled in different ways. Some organisms use simple food material obtained from inorganic sources in the form of carbon dioxide and water. These organisms, that is, the autotrophs, include green plants and some bacteria. Other organisms utilize complex substances. These complex substances have to be broken down into simpler ones before they can be used for the upkeep and growth of the body. To achieve this, organisms use biocatalysts called enzymes. Thus, the heterotroph's survival depends directly or indirectly on autotrophs. Heterotrophic organisms include animals and fungi. Let us study autotrophic nutrition. The term autotroph is derived from two Greek words. Auto means self and trophic means nutrition. In autotrophic nutrition, an organism makes its own food from simple raw materials. The green plants, which are autotrophic, synthesize food through the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process by which green plants having chlorophyll synthesize the simple sugar, that is glucose, from the simple raw materials, water and carbon dioxide, using the energy of sunlight. Now see the equation of photosynthesis. 6CO2 plus 12H2O in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll gives C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 6H2O. The sugar produced is stored in the form of starch in plants. In animals, food is stored in the form of glycogen. These food reserves provide energy as and when required by the organism. Since autotrophic plants are able to produce food, they are also known as producers. Next, requirements for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis requires chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. Chlorophylls are green pigments found in all photosynthetic organisms and are responsible for their green color. If you carefully observe a cross section of a leaf under the microscope, you will notice that some cells contain green dots. These green dots are cell organelles called chloroplast, which contain chlorophyll. Then carbon dioxide. Here contains about 0.03% of carbon dioxide. Terrestrial plants use atmospheric carbon dioxide during photosynthesis, and aquatic plants use carbon dioxide dissolved in water. Plants obtain carbon dioxide through pores called stomata present on the surface of leaves. The opening and closing of these pores are regulated by guard cells which surround them. That is, the guard cells swell when water flows into them, causing the stomatal pore to open. Similarly, the pore closes if the guard cells shrink. There are two main stages in the entire process of photosynthesis. The first stage is depend on light and the other stage does not require light. During these two stages, the following events occur, that are absorption of light energy by chlorophyll, then conversion of light energy to chemical energy and splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. Then reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. These steps need not take place one after the other immediately. For example, desert plants take up carbon dioxide at night and prepare an intermediate product which is acted upon by the energy absorbed by the chlorophyll during the daytime. Let us see an activity to demonstrate carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. Take two healthy potted plants which are nearly the same size. Keep them in a dark room for 3 days so that all the starch gets used up. Now, place each plant on separate glass plates. Place a watch glass containing potassium hydroxide by the side of one of the plant. Potassium hydroxide is used to absorb carbon dioxide. It is a good absorbent of carbon dioxide. Cover both plants with separate bell jars. Use Vaseline to seal the bottom of the jar to the glass plate so that the setup is airtight. Keep the plants in sunlight for about 2 hours. Pluck a leaf from each plant and check for the presence of starch. The leaf of potted plant with potassium hydroxide does not show positive starch test showing that it has not performed photosynthesis. The leaf of other potted plant turns bluish black, indicating the presence of starch and hence photosynthesis. The only difference between the two potted plant is the absence of carbon dioxide in the first and the presence of carbon dioxide in the second. Therefore, carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis. Okay? Is how to demonstrate chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. Take a potted plant with variegated leaves. Variegated leaf means that leaf is not uniformly green color. For example, money plant or croton plant. Keep the plant in a dark room for 3 days in order to de-starch the leaf. Now keep the plant in sunlight for about 6 hours. Pluck a leaf from the plant and mark the green areas in it and trace them on a sheet of white paper. Dip the leaf in boiling water for a few minutes. After this, immerse it in a beaker containing alcohol. Carefully place the beaker containing alcohol in a water bath and heat it. What happens to the color of the leaf? The leaf become colorless because chlorophyll dissolve in alcohol. Now dip the leaf in a dilute solution of iodine for a few minutes. Take out the leaf and rinse off iodine and observe the color of the leaf. You can find that the leaf has two patches, bluish black and pale colored. Compare it with the sketch drawn on white paper. Bluish black color appears where the leaf was green. Pale color represents the non-green areas. As starch develops only after photosynthesis, the chlorophyll containing areas perform photosynthesis. Therefore, chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. Next, how to demonstrate sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis. De-starch a potted plant by keeping it in complete darkness for 2 to 3 days. Then fix a black paper on the surface of a leaf by means of sellotape. Expose the plant to sunlight for 2 to 3 hours. Pluck that leaf and another leaf and remove the black paper. Test for starch. The same procedure by dipping in boiled water, then in hot alcohol, again in water, and lastly in iodine solution. The leaf, which is covered with a black paper, does not show a blue-black color, while the other leaf becomes bluish-black due to the presence of starch. As the covered leaf does not perform photosynthesis, light is necessary for photosynthesis. So far, we have discussed about how autotrophs meet their energy requirements. But they also need other raw materials for building their body. Water used in photosynthesis is taken up from the soil by the roots. Other materials like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, and magnesium are taken up from the soil. Nitrogen is an essential element used in the synthesis of proteins and other compounds. This is taken up in the form of inorganic nitrates or nitrites, or it is taken up as organic compounds which have been prepared by bacteria from atmospheric nitrogen.